Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And I reviewed and I watched Daredevil Born Again, right? We watched it on Thursdays with my dear sweet friend Sunker Maiden. We reviewed it, and for the most part, we actually enjoyed the show. I loved seeing Charlie Cox come back, of course, Kingpin, other than being kind of going through some weird emotional stuff. Towards the end of the series, we actually got to see Kingpin be Kingpin again, and that was really nice as well. And of course, it was great to see John Bernthal back as the Punisher, and for the most part, we enjoyed the majority of the episodes. There was definitely some very cringe parts, and overall, there was also some episodes we absolutely despised. Well, the problem is, boys and girls, that even though Daredevil Born Again went under massive reshoots, massive rewrites, got a brand new team behind it, the problem is Marvel burnout is real, because if you don't hear something from the fans out there, if you don't hear a word of mouth saying something is absolutely incredible and is must-watch TV, you're just not going to bring Marvel fans back in. And I'm sad to say, boys and girls, that's exactly what has happened again with Daredevil Born Again, because as you can see from the headline, Daredevil disaster, 8 episodes, 0 Nielsen ratings. And ladies and gentlemen, if this ends up being the same way, the next batch of Nielsen ratings that come out, this could be the first show in Marvel's history to ever not chart on the Nielsen ratings for at least one episode. Yes, that includes She-Hulk, that includes things like Secret Invasion and Echo, all of the well, Echo doesn't really count because they dropped every single episode all at once. But other than that, like literally, boys and girls, the ones that they have received weekly have always charted at least once at some point during their series. And Daredevil Born Again could be the first one, and probably arguably one of the most undeserved ones, to never actually hit the ratings. So we're going to check this article from cosmicbook.news, getting all the juicy details and see exactly how bad their numbers are, and of course, give you my opinion on exactly why that is. But before we do, if you do enjoy my content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we just crossed 1,800. We're inching our way closer and closer to 1,900, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Did you watch Daredevil Born Again? What did you think of it? Do you think it deserves the ratings disaster that it is currently finding itself in? Or are you like so many other Marvel fans out there that have tuned out and checked out and were like, yeah, I wasn't even going to bother with it. I got rid of my Disney Plus subscription, so unless I heard it was fantastic, I wasn't going to bother going back in, and clearly that word of mouth didn't happen. Let us know what you think about all that in the comments section down below. If you'd like to support the channel and become a member, please check out the links in the description down below, and you will get your name at the end credits of every single one of these videos, at the end and at the end of all of our live streams. So, all right, boys and girls, from Matt McGloin over at cosmicbook.news. Daredevil Born Again continues its embarrassing run, with the penultimate episode becoming the 8th straight to miss the Nielsen streaming charts, something no other major Marvel series has ever done. Unless MCU fans have decided to jump on board with the last episode to binge watch, it's looking likely that Daredevil Born Again will be the Marvel's first MCU series on Disney Plus not to make the Nielsen charts, but we'll know next week, because obviously the Nielsen charts are a lot farther behind, which is why they're the industry standard, because they put a lot more work into them to make sure their numbers are accurate, and your Disney Plus account is automatically tuned in and turned on with the Nielsen ratings. So if you watch this on Disney Plus like I did, I am automatically added into the ratings. You are automatically added into the ratings. We are automatically added into the ratings if you watched it. Now, if you watched it on some other other way out there, well, of course, your numbers aren't going to show up on this, but this just shows you how tuned out the general audience is, because the majority of fans don't go that way to get things out there, right? The majority of fans are just our natural lazy American selves, and we're just going to pay the $8.99 or get the 30-day free trial or the 3-day free trial or whatever it is, and watch what we want to watch and then turn it off and check out like most of the times. Churn is absolutely real. And that's the reason why Disney has lost 25 million subscribers since this time last year, because churn is real and they're not producing enough good quality content to keep people sticking around back to back. It's just not working. And when you do something that's only 9 or 8 episodes or 10 episodes like you have been doing, unlike the 20, 25 episodes we used to get with traditional linear television, you're going to have this kind kind of thing happen. If you want to get rid of churn, you have to start making long-term series again. But if you keep just hiring a bunch of movie people, that's never going to work. They don't know how to do episodic television. This is why you get so much binge stuff. Nielsen released the charts for the week of April 7th to the 13th, 2025, which is when episode 8, Isle of Joy, of Daredevil Born Again was released on Disney+. The episode has failed to make the chart, just like the previous 7. Nielsen also measures all the episodes available within a week's time frame. So literally, they're measuring up every episode that's come out since this show began, and all of that still didn't equal enough to make number 10 on the Nielsen's ratings. And of course, unless you pay a whole bunch of extra money, you can't even go down to find out about all of the shows individually, and even then I'm not sure you actually can, but they do give you the top 10. And Isle of Joy was an episode I actually enjoyed, as it did get better as it got towards the end, but the problem was it was really not up until like the last 3 episodes that it really started to kick into high gear. Outside of the single one-shot episode of the bank heist, like everything else was just kind of meh. And it's funny because Charlie Cox, Sunker and I loved the bank heist episode. It's actually the episode that Charlie Cox hates the most, which is wild to think about. But hey, agree to disagree, right? At the bottom of the Nielsen chart for this week's is Netflix's $1 Million Secret with 460 million minutes. That means Daredevil Born Again episode 8 pulled in less than that. And remember, this is just streaming originals. It's not competing against all of the things that people binge watch constantly on Netflix or all of the rest of these streaming services. No, it's only competing against originals. And I mean, $1 Million Secret, have you heard of that? I don't know, but clearly more people are watching it than Daredevil Born Again. When episode 5 and 6 dropped together, failed the chart, they averaged under 172 million minutes each. And that's a 2-episode drop. And it still failed to chart with 2 episodes at once. So there seems to be no scenario where a single new episode breaks through when the cutoff is nearly triple that. Again, unless fans show up to binge watch, and then you literally have to be doing that on the last episode. And I don't know how many people, I haven't heard a lot of chatter on people thinking about binge watching this episode at all, or this series at all, because the reviews just weren't that great from even people that, like, even from a lot of the like pixie dusters out there. It still wasn't as good as some of the stuff. It still wasn't out there. The reviews still weren't all that great. What that means is the MCU brand is damaged. Fans aren't tuning in to watch the MCU shows or Star Wars or Disney+. Only Bluey charts, and that's not even from Disney. The movies also chart for a bit, with Moana 2 and Mufasa the Lion King landing on the top 10 movies Nielsen chart. And it's absolutely a fact. Marvel burnout is real. You can argue the fact that they produce too much content, right? Which is kind of a fair argument, but not really at all, because if you're producing a bunch of good quality content, the numbers would still continue to be there all the time. I mean, series back in the day didn't go 8, 9, 10 seasons, right? Because they were just producing way too many episodes, right? That people didn't want to keep turning back into year after year. No, those series had, think about Supernatural. That thing went on for what, 9, 10, 11 years, right? 20, 25 episode seasons every single year. You can't argue that burnout is the problem. It's the quality of the content that is coming out that is the problem. And we know why. It's the elephant in the room that all of these executives and studio heads and Hollywood people don't want to admit, right? You decided to go down the path of diversity, inclusion, and equity. You decided to hire a bunch of people who weren't qualified the job based on immutable characteristics, and guess what? It turns out they were just a bunch of activists that used your platform to push their political agenda. And because of your own personal nonsense, because of your own personal bias, you weren't willing to push back against them until it was too little too late. We didn't hear about it until it was like last year, spring of last year, is when Kevin Feige finally went through and got rid of all of what they considered activist producers, right? We know who they are. They're the acolytes of the cult. They're the spirit of the age. They were people that were hired based on immutable characteristics and not the content of their character. But it doesn't matter, because you still have so much leftover crap from that era that nobody's excited about what you've got coming. Everybody assumed you were going to screw up Daredevil, and for the most part, you didn't do a great job. Everybody knows Ironheart is going to be an absolute abomination. Most people at this point don't have a lot of hope for Fantastic Four, and especially with a female Silver Surfer confirming all of the rumors to be true. And then after watching that trailer and making it's very obvious it's a Sue-centric story, and Reed is treated like an idiot and put to the back seat the entire time. Well, I wonder how that's going to go over with actual fans of the Fantastic Four. Hardcore folks that might actually go out there and give your movie a shot because they love the Fantastic Four so much. We know how that's going to end up being, unless word of mouth is absolutely incredible. For Fantastic Four, it's going to be a miracle that cracks $500 million globally. We see the Thunderbolts doing pretty decent on its weekend hold right now, at least predictions-wise. Why? Because word of mouth has been pretty decent on this movie. Like, it's not going to end up, it's still going to end up losing money because of Marvel burnout and because of the fact that the opening weekend was so low because of Marvel burnout. Right? It's not going to end up making a profit, but it's probably going to end up doing a lot better than the Marvels. It's probably going to it might even end up doing better than Captain America Brave New World. We'll have to wait and see. But boys and girls, needless to say, this has been a constant churn of garbage television and garbage movies from Marvel because they let the diversity, inclusion, and equity nut jobs take over the entire asylum. And that's why fans didn't show up to Daredevil Born Again, because they didn't expect you to give any respect to the character and show you the one that the fans know and love, especially after what we saw you do to She-Hulk. I mean, one of the most popular Marvel female characters of all time. Strength, beauty, intelligence, a whole package, everything you could want, and you turned her into nothing more than a drunken hoe who went out every night trying to get laid and would take home any guy that even smiled at her sideways. It was disgusting and it was pathetic. And why, after an abomination like that, or God forbid, let's not talk about what you did to the Eternals, one of Jack Kirby's greatest masterpieces, and why would fans trust you to respect their properties, respect their IP, respect their fandom, respect the things that they love if you're not going to do that? And yes, it does belong to the fans, because it would not be successful as it is if it was not for us. You would not have ever made $1 billion at the box office. You would have never sold 1 million copies without the fans. We built you. And the best part is, because of your own actions, you have turned off so much of your audience that now we're going to destroy you. And it doesn't take any actual actions on us. All we have to do is walk away. And as you can tell by the Daredevil ratings, that's obviously happened to the majority of the fan base out there. They have walked away. And apathy is the absolute death note to any IP out there. It's not even close. Don't believe me? Disney, Star Wars, anyone? How's that Rings of Power working out for Amazon? So this is what happens. This is exactly what happens. A show that honestly wasn't that bad. Would I argue that maybe overall it's good? Yeah, but it's not great, right? And that's the problem. You needed great. You needed fantastic. You needed wonderful. You needed hard, edgy. You needed everything that the Netflix series was that you couldn't do because you had let a bunch of activists run the show on this series for so long that the strikes were the only excuse it gave you to fire everybody involved, hire a bunch of brand new people, and they did everything they could to salvage a show that was already going to be an abomination right from the get-go. And for all the hard work they did and for all the good parts about that show that they gave us, overall, it was never going to bring the fans back in because you have too much baggage from all of the activists you hired. Daredevil Born Again has suffered and has failed in the ratings because of the choices people like Bob Iger and Kevin Feige made. You guys decided to dance with the devil because you thought it was the new hot thing and everybody's going to love it and everybody's going to love these characters just because we race swapped and gender swapped them and they're a diversity inclusion hire and they're all this other kind of just representation nonsense. You're going to love it, right? No. Because once again, as always, you thought nerds were just a bunch of idiots. You thought geeks were just a bunch of morons that were going to show up to anything in tights that flew around and had a bunch of big explosions. Well, guess what? As usual, and has happened time and time again, your audience and your fans are smarter than you. They have figured out your BS, they have figured out your nonsense, and you have lost billions of dollars because you underestimated us once again. We built you to the successful company that you once were. And now your choices and our apathy will tear you down and watch you burn down to the ground. And after all, Disney, after all, Marvel, after all, Kevin Feige, you danced with the devil. Now you've gotten burned. And after all, you did it to yourself. Rest in peace, Daredevil. Maybe season 2 will be better.